I think you and I will join the meeting. Good morning, everybody. It's November, the month of Thanksgiving. So we're just all thankful to be here this morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 10 o'clock a.m. I ask that it's a courtesy to all that you ensure that you've silenced your cell phones. Also, I would like to remind our directors to turn their microphones on each time they speak to help with the audio and video recordings. For the record, I'll note that the public meeting notice was properly posted as required by law, and the notice of this board meeting was provided to each of the directors. I would like to ask Director Huber to deliver the invocation.
Would you pray with me? Our Heavenly Father, we acknowledge, Lord, that you are the one true God and you're sovereign over everything. We thank you this morning for the opportunity to serve on this board to help our fellow Texans in this capacity. We thank you for the hardworking board members here and the hardworking staff members here and all the work that they do. We ask you now for wisdom as we discuss your business or the business here and we make decisions. We pray that we'll make wise decisions. We ask all these things in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mike Fernandez and John Henry Luton indicated they would not be present at this meeting. We've now reached the portion of the meeting where we've set aside time to hear from you, the general public. Those interested in providing comments by filling out one of the cards available at the receptionist desk will be called to approach the podium to make your comments at this time. Seeing that no one wishes to speak, we'll move forward onto the agenda. All right, agenda item number 1, report and possible discussion on General Manager CEO report. David Collingsworth, General Manager and CEO.
Presiding Officer, I do not have a report this morning, but I would like to acknowledge that we have a couple of different engineering firms that are here this morning, and we really appreciate you guys being interested in the work that the BRA is doing. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thank y'all for being here. 2, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2023 fourth quarter budget report by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer. David.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is our fiscal year end, August 31st numbers. I have it shown, talk to you a little bit about what the variances were for that period. This is just a graphical look at it, but let's look at the detailed numbers. The first of these numbers is the revenue, 3.9 million. Now then, when this budget was put together, this was over a year ago. The Fed at that time, the rates were near 0. Now they're over 5%. So that's what's the 3.9 represents, the interest income we get off our investments. The next are the operating expenses, made up kind of 3 groups. One is salaries and benefits. The other is other groups that give us their budgets. We take those budgets and we have to put them into our FY23 numbers. Those numbers are like Army Corps of Engineers and other groups like that. And they were under budget as well. And then the last were all the various departments and they were under budget as well. Next is the operating projects. We have about 14 projects there. They're multi-year projects. So therefore, those numbers have been captured into the next year FY24 budget. Next, talking about is the capital. Now, in the capital number in the 49 is Allen's Creek, and that's $20 million. You back that out, and that's 29. So we did spend close to 50% our budget. So we did a pretty good job in spending money. I like spending money. And so that was good. And then, of course, the last one is the 46 million that did close on November 2nd with the Texas Water Development Board. So we do have that money in the bank. This is how we spent the money. questions? And I can back up for you. There you go. We'll go.
Joe.
Oh. Any questions yet? Okay. All right. That's all I have on that. I'll go slower on the next one. How's that?
Report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2023 fourth quarter investment report by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
This just takes a look at the 2-year process in which we have our portfolio. Obviously, the difference between here is the $46 million that we got from Texas Water Development Board. Actually, this is PNC, but later it was Texas Water Development Board. We moved all that money into the money market, and it's earning a fabulous almost 5.5%. We are going to start lateraling this money out into the outer years because my feeling and everything I've read is that the Fed will start lowering their rates toward the end of next year. So I'd like to move the money further out to still capture the 5.5% that we have out there now. We do have a few that are maturing that pulls down our overall rates from that perspective. So we're pretty much tied in with Texas Treasuries, Texas Pool at 5.17 right now. That was quick too, but any questions? Yes, sir.
Comment. I just want to commend the department heads that came in under budget and have a surplus. And, it's not like the government where I'm around. If you get $1,000, they spend more than what they need. I mean, I used to run a business, so anytime it's not how much you make, it's how much you can keep. And anytime somebody can come under budget, I think they need to be commended.
They did a great job in being frugal about the money. And obviously those monies that were savings go back into our general funds and for other projects and stuff as well.
Exactly.
That's a good point. Very good point.
All right. I don't see any other hands. David, you're going to be the star of the show this morning. So discussion and possible action on recommendation of professional auditing services by David Thompson.
Okay. So Baker Tilly is in their last of the 5-year contract that they have with us for external auditors. The board policy requires that we go back out for RFP every 5 years. We did so in August. We had 6 firms that responded, 4 of which the board, my staff selected based on the RFP responses. The other 2 firms, we did notify them and let them know that they didn't make it. Then on October 30th, which is a couple of weeks ago, we had the admin and audit meeting. And there, the audit committee basically listened to the 4 firms. They gave 20 minutes presentations on their qualifications, project approach, and the quality of their presentation. Then we had a 20-minute or a 10-minute question and answer at the end. The committee then decided on ranking of 3 firms. Baker Tilly was number 1. Then we took those groups of names and we plugged them into the resolution. Chairman, Director Fernandez, basically asked me to read the resolution. It was adopted unanimously by the committee itself. The other 3 firms that we had that didn't make it, we did let them know that they didn't make it and asked them if they did want to debrief. So, and we have not heard anything back from those firms, so that's where we stand with that. We stand now that we need to have the full board approve this resolution to make it official. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to say thanks for following up with the unsuccessful bidders, and whether they take the meeting or not, it's important because they can learn on where they fell short, and that makes our supplier base stronger and better and more competitive for any subsequent bids that they would participate in.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments? Please read the resolution.
Be it hereby resolved that the Administration and Audit Committee recommends to the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority adoption of the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to negotiate and execute a contract for professional auditing services in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority with Baker Tilly US LLP for a 5-year period. In the event staff is unable to successfully negotiate a contract with Baker Tilly US LLP, the Board of Directors authorizes staff to negotiate a contract with Weaver and Tidwell LLP. In the event staff is unable to successfully negotiate a contract with Weaver and Tidwell LLP, the Board of Directors authorizes staff to negotiate a contract with RSM US LLP.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Ruiz, a second made by Jen Henderson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Silver,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Warren,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Crowe,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks, Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action on surplus personal property by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
We know the routine here. The state requires anytime we get rid of personal property that are defective, too costly to repair, or we simply don't need, we need to bring it to the board for your approval. And once it's approved, then we go and put it on a well-advertised auction to sell. And I'll go through the items that we're basically getting ready to surplus.
Read all of those in our packet. Thank you, David, for scrolling those down. Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to dispose of the following surplus personal property under the terms and conditions that are in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to continue to use and/or maintain previously authorized surplus property in a manner that is in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority until appropriate replacement property is received and placed in service. Is no longer needed or repairs not cost efficient. Lot 1, assorted dive equipment, 4 Henderson dry suits, 1 2XL, 2XL, 1 large, 3 Quantum Search Stretch, 5 mil wetsuits, all size medium. 1 Mars 2-piece 6.5 mil wetsuit XL. 1 Harvey's 2-piece 5 mil wetsuit size small. 1 Scuba Max 2-piece 6.5 mil wetsuit size medium. 2 Neosport 2-piece wetsuit. 1 2XL, 1 large, 5 dot hoods, all large. 1 Sequest buoyancy control device size large. 1 Mars buoyancy control device large. 3 US Diver full fins all size large. 1 IST split fins size medium. Lot 2, Norditrack Commercial Stride Elliptical, serial number HH240G0403576, model number NTEL 71313.4. Lot 3, Powerline Cable Crossover Workout Machine. Lot 4, Adjustable Weight Bench. Lot 5, Quantity 4, Shop-Made Small Metal Grills, 18-inch by 10-inch. Lot 6, Quantity 2, Shop-Made Metal Picnic Tables, quarter-inch steel plate and tubing, 4 seats attached on table. Top is 48 inches and seats are 12 inches. Lot 7, Holland fifth wheel hitch. Lot 8, Quantity 5, Portable Propane Tanks, 46 inches long. Tanks hold pressure. Lot 9, Poly 1,000-gallon water tank, model vertical rib, 1,000-gallon. Lot 10, Shop-Made Security Gate, 26 years old. 156 inches long by 78 inches tall. Lot 11, shop-made pipe cattle guard, 6 foot 5 inches by 14 feet. Lot 12, galvanized steel triangular antenna tower, 10 feet by 12 feet, 9 sections. Lot 13, aluminum walkway and polydock. Aluminum walkway, 20 feet by 5 feet with handrails. Polydock is in sections. Quantity 1 is 32 inches by 116 inches by 15 inches. Quantity 7 are, excuse me, do you mind to go back, please? Quantity 7 are 77 inches, 116 inches by 14 inches. Lot 14, approximately 70 Durafloat orange poly floats, 18 inch by 36 inch by 18 inch. Lot 15, assorted electrical insulators and barrels. Lot 16, quantity 6 control panels, 24 inches wide by 36 inches tall by 7 inches long. Quantity 17, Lot 17, quantity 22, assorted electrical meter and breaker boxes, no breakers. Lot 18, assorted used electrical wire, unknown amount of feet and sizes. Lot 19, assorted PVC pipe and fittings, most are Schedule 80. Lot 20, quantity 6, ear hugger earpiece model T1010 3.5 millimeter plug. Lot 21, quantity 3, Garmin handheld GPS, and quantity 1, Magellan handheld GPS. Lot 22, quantity 2, ATV helmets, model V2, color black, full face. Lot 23, pallet 1, miscellaneous Dell desktops and laptops, quantity 128. Lot 24, pallet 2, used Dell monitor sizes 17 inches to 22 inches, approximately 43. Lot 25, pallet 3, used Dell monitor sizes 17 inches to 22 inches, approximately 50. Lot 26, pallet 4, Axis cameras, mounts, quantity 39. Lot 27, pallet 5, Dell desktops, quantity 53. Lot 28, pallet 6, miscellaneous Dell desktops, laptops, and printers, quantity 74. Lot 29, assorted metal flange covers. Lot 30, electrical cable hoist in poor, non-working condition. Lot 31, electric pump. Lot 32, metal man lift basket, 30 inches wide by 45 inches tall by 37 inches long. Lot 33, NVH 240, 8-foot grade blade.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion made by Director Huber, second made by
Second.
Director Wilson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Ward.
Yes.
Director Easy.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Jimenez.
Yes.
Director Kahn.
Yes.
Director Crowe.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Lattimore.
Yes.
Director Lloyd.
Yes.
Director Embro.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Smith.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on determination of interruptible water available for 2024 by Air and Able Water Resource Management.
Good morning, Chair, Directors. This is an item we bring to you each year to establish the amount of interruptible water that may be made available for the upcoming calendar year. I guess a preview of this presentation is it's going to look similar to what we brought to you last November. And you may recall that the drought at that point, we were at a point where we didn't recommend interruptible water for 2023. And the trend is our friend right now. We're seeing some rain, but we need a little bit more before we're comfortable in recommending interruptible water for 2024. But I'll step through a little bit of what interruptible water is and where to go from here. So interruptible water is just that. It's interruptible. Availability is not guaranteed, and interruptible water is made available on a temporary basis only. I will say some definitions as far as what interruptible water is. It's essentially firm water that is left in storage within the reservoirs that's not used in the previous year. So then you have to say, okay, well, what is firm water? And firm water is the water that's available to long-term contract holders, and it's based upon the firm yield of the reservoir or system of reservoirs. So the firm yield is defined as the maximum water volume a reservoir or system of reservoirs can provide year after year under a repeat of the drought of record. So that has to do with modeling, water availability modeling that's done to estimate the firm yield. The availability of interruptible water varies from year to year, and it's really dependent upon past water usage, which is, really driven by weather. So, in dry years like we've had the last couple of years, water use is higher under the firm contracts, and that really decreases the amount of unused firm water that's left in storage. And then conversely, in wetter years, use is lower, and that allows for more unused water that's left in storage, and you see availability of interruptible water a little bit higher in those years. The calculation of interruptible water availability is detailed in BRA's interruptible water sale procedure. So we have a procedure that sets out the calculation, and that calculation does have a safety factor used to protect the long-term contracts. Forward in the future, use under long-term contracts will continue to rise as municipalities and industries continue to grow, and that rise in firm water use will cause interruptible water availability to decrease through time. There's no decisions as far as the product of interruptible water. That is going to remain the same. It's contemplated, but the availability as we go through time will decrease just on the fact of how it's calculated. Interruptible water is sold at a system rate. So, FY 2024, $93.50 an acre foot. Agricultural use pays 70% of that, so it's about $65.45 an acre foot. And we've been supplying interruptible water in this fashion since 2008. And I guess one thing to note, and you'll see it in the next slide, but interruptible water is purchased primarily for ag and mining for backup supply. So, in times of drought, use of interruptible water rises, but it's primarily used extensively for agricultural. So there's a lot going on here. I'll try to step through this, but this graphic summarizes the amount of interruptible water that has been offered, contracted, and used from 2008 through 2023. So the blue bars in each of the years are the amounts authorized by the board. The purple bars, I think those are purple, are the amounts that were actually contracted, and the green bars are the amounts that were used. And so in most years, not much interruptible water actually gets used due to customers purchasing interruptible water for insurance purposes. In the past, we've had a handful of years in which the calculated amount of interruptible water was not made available, or we made it available a portion of that. And previously, interruptible water contracts were made available on a multi-year term. So now we have just 1 year interruptible contracts. But in the past, we had terms of interruptible water contracts that go out, to 5 years. But that was discontinued in 2017, and the last of the multi-year contracts expired at the end of 2021. And I want to say that because there's some decision points that were made in the past drought that has to do with multi-year contracts and interruptible water. So in October of 2011, I think here, the total system storage was down to about 64%. So that was the first year of the multi-year drought from 2011 through 2015. So we were down to 64%. And the decision at that time was made to satisfy the existing multi-year contracts. And that was about 8,500 acre feet of water. We received rainfall in the early part of 2012. And so we received rainfall, and associated inflows caused improvements, and we made the remaining amount of interruptible water available in March of 2012. So fast forward to with continued in October of 2013, we continued to see drought conditions. We satisfied the multi-year contracts in October of 2013, and that was about 44,000 acre feet. At that time, the total system storage was about 66% full. And then we didn't see the improvements in the latter part of 2014. We really didn't see the improvements, and so we didn't make any additional interruptible water available in that year. And then finally, well, I guess not quite finally, because I'll have to talk about 2023, but in October of 2014, the system storage was around 69%. And the decision was made to satisfy, again, just the multi-year contracts, which was about 44,000 acre feet. Fortunately, we did receive substantial rainfall in 2015, primarily in the spring and winter of 2015, and we made the remainder interruptible water amount available as the system storage rose above the stage 1 drought watch trigger. So that's something we are still in stage 1 drought watch right now, but at that time, we used that as a trigger to make the remaining interruptible water available. And then again, I mentioned last year around this time, the decision was made to not make interruptible water available due to drought conditions, and we were around 71% full at this time last year. And I'll talk a little bit about where we are now a little bit later, but this table is the preliminary availability of interruptible water by segment. So the interruptible water sales procedure guidelines, how it's calculated throughout the system. This availability calculation is guided by our interruptible water sales procedure, and it outlines all the pertinent details with regard to interruptible water. So the annual calculation methodology, as I mentioned before, it does include a safety factor established by the board. And really the purpose of that safety factor is to ensure that interruptible contracts don't impact long-term contracts. We have to be conservative in making interruptible water available in order to protect those long-term firm water customers. The recommended safety factor of 0.25 provides for a 75% margin of safety used every year since the inception of interruptible water in 2008. Interruptible water contracts also contain a provision that allows BRA to suspend the use of water under the interruptible contracts if we reach a stage 3 drought emergency condition under the BRA drought contingency plan. And that happened at Lake Proctor last year. We're not in stage 3 at any other places. We're in stage 4 at Proctor, and I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But regarding the requests, we have a process where we accept applications for folks that are interested in contracting interruptible water, and we mailed letters and applications on July 17th of this year to customers to advise them of the application process for 2024 interruptible water. The application deadline for this year was set on September 29th, so we received about 46 requests were received by the deadline, and some of those potential customers had multiple diversion locations. The red dots on these maps here indicate where those diversion locations are located. And then you can see in the lower left-hand corner the text box that details the amount of requests by basin, essentially. And really you can see the lower part of the basin. That area contracts more interruptible water than other parts. And really that's typically our largest customers for interruptible water usually contract that water for insurance, really to provide an additional buffer to their water rights and their long-term contracts with BRA during drought years. Yeah,
Please.
sure.
What's going on down in the lower basin? Is it mostly agricultural or industrial?
So there's, we have about the major driver in that lower basin amount is Gulf Coast Water Authority and Dow Chemical. They've requested about 23,000 acre feet, of that 26,438 acre feet. So, Dow, it's, industrial for the chemical complex down there. And then Gulf Coast Water Authority, a lot of that is driven by rice irrigation and then other industrial demands for them. Yeah.
A question. The upper basin, 945 acre feet, is that all that would come out of probably Possum Kingdom, or when you look at 31,714, is that you just draw from all the lakes to meet the demand? Or is there an allocation per lake to give X amount?
So there is an allocation per, associated with this calculation. There are obviously in the upper basin, most of these diversion locations between PK and Granbury and a little bit downstream of Lake Granbury, would be sourced from PK and Granbury. So it is associated with reservoirs and specific subsystems of reservoirs. Now, along the main stem of the Brazos, we can supply those diversion locations from multiple reservoirs. Everything that's upstream. So,
So said another way, there's going to be more water flow through the bottom than the top.
Okay.
So that's the reason we're able to make more allocations downstream.
I won't be expecting a lot of phone calls.
No, we don't sell much interruptible water in the Lubbock area.
So I won't belabor this all that much. I know y'all are familiar with, this graphic and, the status of the system of the 11 reservoirs as of last Wednesday. So this is November 8th. The blue portion of each of the bars is the full storage in the reservoirs, and the white space is empty storage. So, we'd like to see more blue and less white. But we still have around 75% as a system. That's how much is stored in all 11 reservoirs. It's about 1.45 million acre feet. We've really seen an increase over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, a 6.5% increase, about 126,000 acre feet of water that's flowed into the reservoirs. And primarily that happened in Whitney, Belton, and Stillhouse. Lake Whitney, there was a rise of about 7 feet, around 150,000 acre feet. Of that, there's only about 40,000 acre feet that flowed into our storage. Belton was up about 4.2 feet, 8% of the storage capacity. Stillhouse up 3 feet. So, we saw some good inflows, need a little bit more. Overall, we're still stage 1 drought watch as a system, since late last August of 2022. That's when we entered stage 1 as a system. And then obviously we're in stage 2 drought warning for Lakes Belton, Stillhouse Hollow, Georgetown system, and then stage 4 at Proctor. So, we really need to see additional rainfall in the Little River watershed. So other parts of the basin are faring better, but, we still need to make some improvements. But, as I mentioned before, the trend is our friend, as far as hopefully we'll see additional rainfall over the winter and the spring. Some additional information related to the current drought. As I mentioned before in the bar chart, the status of the water supply system is similar in other years where we haven't made the full amount of interruptible available, 2022, 2013, 2014. Assuming worst case conditions or projections of low inflows, we could see additional reservoirs within the Little River system reach stage 3 later in 2024, but that's, assuming very little to no rainfall between now and then. I don't think that's going to happen. And then reservoir inflows at some of the reservoirs are at historic lows. So getting to the recommendation, at this time, the authorization of interruptible water for 2024 is not recommended. We hope to come back to the board at some point in 2024 once water supply conditions improve, and we can recommend the authorization of interruptible water. If, in some of the trigger points, of when we could do that, depending on the time of year, if the overall system storage rises above the stage 1 drought watch storage trigger, it's about 79% full over the all 11 reservoirs. It's about 1.52 million acre feet. Then we would likely come back and present to you the authorization and recommend interruptible water for 2024. So that would be a 4% increase, about 73,000 acre feet of water. The last 2.5 to 3 weeks, we saw about 126,000 acre feet of water. So, we're making some progress. But ultimately, we have to protect our long-term customers and ensure that the firm water supply of those customers are not impacted.
Aaron, can you remind me when the water master gets in, what triggers the engagement of the water master?
So the engagement of the water master is nonstop every day. Since June of 2015, we coordinate with Molly. Molly Moeller is the water master in the Brazos from Possum Kingdom down to Freeport, including all 11 of the reservoirs in our system. So that's an ongoing process. Even during the winter when, use is not that high, we still have to coordinate with her on the use of water under our customers' contracts and, show her what's being done. So
Aaron, talk a little bit about the reporting requirements from our customers to us and from us to TCEQ.
So on a
that'll answer this
daily
question.
basis, so we have lakeside customers that divert water directly from the reservoirs, and they have to make reporting requirements to us. on a monthly basis to report their daily water use. Now, for customers that are downstream of the reservoirs, the reporting is a little bit more rigorous. It's a lot more rigorous, I will say. And they have to report essentially on a daily basis where if their pump is not operating and they thought it was going to operate, they coordinate with us. And we have detailed Excel files that we have to put all that information into and provide that to Molly. And that happens on a daily basis, multiple times a day. And so it's a lot of coordination between water services staff in the water supply operations and Molly and our customers. So it's really a three-way, coordination. So I hope that answers your question.
Is there a scenario where we're surplus of water where we're no longer in that level of engagement with the water master?
No.
Okay,
No, once that program is put in place, it has those data requirements.
okay.
Aaron, the divert water for their use from our system, it's metered, right? At the source where their diversion point?
So all of our contracts are required to have a meter, and that's required by our contracts and also the water master. So they have a meter that, depending on the size of the meter, it could cost up to, $5,000 to $8,000. And so those meters have to be calibrated per their contracts, and they have to be certified by the water master.
So we have hard data on every bit of diversion.
Absolutely.
Aaron, thank you for Director Lattimore.
Let me turn on my mic. I just want to take a minute to personally endorse what you were saying about your recommendation on no interruptible water supply for the current year. And I am personally very uncomfortable with any schedule that shows sales coming out of the upper end of the basin, specifically out of Possum Kingdom and Granbury. As Mr. Collinsworth indicated, I think anything that shows sales coming out of the upper end of the basin is probably anti any good management of water quality or water hydrodynamics, and I'm no expert in the business, but it makes no sense to me why we would sell water out of the upper end of the basin at any point. So I heartily endorse the decision not to sell interruptible water. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I have a question. If circumstances change, you have the ability to come back to the board and
Absolutely.
revisit this, right?
That's correct. And that's what we would do.
Okay.
Sure.
That's our recommendation.
So let me give you another way to think about interruptible water, because I want to plant a seed for the future. And I'm going to use round numbers here. In round numbers, we have about 800,000 acre feet of water in our system. And in round numbers, on a normal year where Mother Nature's doing her deal and we're getting some rainfall, we use about half of that. So we have the other half to look at and put these safety factors in and say, hey, let's help fellow Texans that need some water. Sometimes, whether it's ag or whether it's some of the industries are going to buy water for insurance purposes in case something happens or they need to use more water and that kind of thing. So right now, the scenario lends itself to us being very conservative, but making a little bit of water available for those people that need that. As Texas continues to grow and there's more industry and there's more people, then it's going to be more difficult for us to rebound from drought conditions like we're living through right now, because there's going to be more demands on the water supply. I tell you that because I want to foot stomp what Aaron talked about. There's going to be some point in time in the future that interruptible water as a product will have to go away, because it won't be prudent for us from a conservation perspective to protect our long-term water interest to sell any water at all. But right now, interruptible water is a product that really does help some folks. Because it's interruptible, we don't include any of that in our budget. We don't include any of that in our rate making. It just helps subsidize and keep our rates where they can be to help our ratepayers. But at some point in the future, and I don't know when that is, 10, 20, sometime beyond the next few years, interruptible water is going to be almost impossible to make available.
Thank you for that explanation, David. Tracy LaTrance had
Sorry.
a comment.
So first, Aaron, thank you. I think this was an excellent presentation. Good review, I mean, just of not just where we are today, but where we've been. And David, to your point, I wholeheartedly agree. I believe that, as tough as decision this is, I believe that we have some stewardship to everyone, top to bottom of Texas, even if it's unfortunate for the industry, in the lower basin. Maybe just a quick couple, just refresh my memory. I do remember that we're in better shape now than we were last year at this time. Question is on like Lake Belton, aren't those? Yeah, thank you. I love this chart, by the way. I look at it all the time. It's it tells me everything I need to
Right, there's a
know
lot
right
there.
there. So whoever does that, thank you. Who's raising their hand?
That'd be Chris Higgins.
Okay, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. So in the pink, where were we? So my memory says that PK and Granbury were our lower numbers last year at this time. Is that correct? Or am I thinking?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so Possum Kingdom and Granbury, they actually spilled earlier this year in June. And then we saw the dry summer and those two reservoirs drew down a bit. So, it's kind of odd, but the main stem in the upper basin has really fared a lot better than the Little River system through this drought.
Have you communicated? I'm sure you have, just your customers of what we're thinking. Excuse me. And then last question is, we look at this again in March, is that right? Or do you, we kind of know somewhere in that area, is that right?
So if the lake's filled up between now and Christmas, we would come back to you in January.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of an ongoing, we're going to evaluate this. And if the set of circumstances allow us to bring interruptible water, we would do that to you. We would do that. Whatever board meeting available.
But for the lower basin, don't we definitively say, okay, we've reevaluated and we for sure will not have interruptible water? I mean, is there a time that you?
No, we can come back, for example.
There's not a month or a date.
For example, if we have another, 8-inch rain
Yes.
above, the Little River system and we see a lot of inflows, we'll come back in January and recommend the authorization of 2024 interruptible water. If that rain event doesn't happen until, February, we can come back in March. So there's really not a date
That's
certain.
fine, yeah. I just was,
Yeah.
just for memory. Okay, thank you. Nice job.
Director Boren.
Maybe this also, is there any other storage capabilities of water storage that we can be, I know you've been studying ideas on storing water, and is there anything that would relate to this chart that we're looking at, or uninterruptible water on storage that might be an offset to some of this?
So, either the acquisition of other reservoirs would allow us to do this, or building Allen's Creek would impact this potentially also. So if you went into, let's say we were going into this spring and we had Allen's Creek right now and it was 100% at capacity, then that might change these numbers.
But there's no underground storage
No,
capabilities?
there's not that we have in our portfolio right now that would allow the consideration of interruptible water.
And it's not even really feasible with the geographic type, is it?
Well, there's places in the Brazos Basin that we're looking at doing aquifer storage and recovery. So yes, I don't ever see that as a mechanism for providing interruptible water, more so as a mechanism for providing drought resiliency during super times, super dry times.
Okay,
Good questions.
thank you.
All right. Aaron, thank you for the presentation. I think our homework is to go home and pray for rain. All right? Yeah, you got it covered over here? Okay. All right, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority, BRA, that due to continued drought conditions, exceptionally low reservoir inflows, the Stage 4 pro rata curtailment declaration for Lake Proctor, and potential for initiation of Stage 3 drought emergency declarations in 2024, no interruptible water will be authorized for sale in calendar year 2024 at this time. Be it further resolved that if drought conditions improve and inflows produce a significant increase in reservoir storage within the BRA water supply system, the authorization of interruptible water for calendar year 2024 may be presented to the Board of Directors for consideration at a later date.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
Who said that? A motion made by Director Wilson, a second made by Director LaChance. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Boring,
Yes.
Director Easy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Crum,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Enlow,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on system operations permit and water management plan amendment by Aaron Abel, Water Resource Manager.
I'm going to try not to steal Aaron's thunder, but I would categorize this by telling you this is rocket science without the rocket. And what we're required to do through our system operations permit is once every 10 years, prove that the water that was granted to us through the system operations permit is there and available. And that's what Aaron is going to walk you through and talk a little bit about. But this is as complicated as it seems.
Thanks, David. So in this item, we are requesting authorization to negotiate and execute a contract for the hydrological and engineering services required in updating the water management plan and any necessary amendments to the system operation permit. We'll go through a little bit of history because it's been a while since the system operation permit was granted and we had the initial water management plan. So we'll explain a bit of that history, what the permit is, what it does, and requirements of the amendment and update process that's required by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So the system operation permit is a water right, and we have to report to TCEQ in the update process. Finally, we'll provide some information concerning the tasks that will need to be completed in the amendment process and provide an update concerning the activities associated with contract and scope of work negotiations. So a system operation permit was contemplated within the Brazos as far back as the 1960s. But until the water availability models were developed in the late 1990s to early 2000s, no one could quantify the amount of water that could be made available under a system operation permit. BRA submitted an application for the first ever system operation permit in the state in 2003. After 2 contested case hearings, and we'll say, contested case hearings is essentially court related to Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and the permitting process. So through 2 of those contested case hearings and then a district court case and 15 years of work, the permit was deemed incontestable in August of 2018. The permit authorizes over 334,000 acre feet per year of diversions based upon various conditions set out in the permit. The additional authorization that's possible through, I will say the 334,000 acre feet per year is due to the operational efficiency of our large parallel system of reservoirs. integrating run-of-river flows. In the past, we didn't have access to run-of-river flows to the extent we do now with the system operation permit. And then also the availability of return flows that are discharged from wastewater treatment plants. So the combination of those, the operational efficiency, run-of-river flows, return flows, essentially perfects the authorization that's under the permit. The permit itself and associated water management plan, which details the operation of BRA's water supply system and the constraints in the permit, allows for diversions of water under the permit for points and reaches throughout the basin. And David mentioned how complicated this is, and I've heard it many times, not from BRA, but from others outside of BRA, that the system operation permit that we hold is likely the most complicated water right in the state of Texas. So the authorization of the permit itself supports approximately 106,000 acre feet per year of firm water. We currently have around 93,000 acre feet of long-term contracts associated with the permit, and that generates about $8.6 million per year as of this current fiscal year. We have contracts with 22 customers, and over 80% of that contracted volume is located within the lower basin. A bit about the system reaches and the diversion reaches. The permit and water management plan authorizes diversion of water by 40 system reaches, and those are depicted here on this map. And those were pre-established through the initial permitting effort. The map depicts the location, as I said, and it's really throughout the basin, essentially from Possum Kingdom down to Freeport along the main stem in Brazoria County. Additionally, the system operation permit and water management plan requires a detailed accounting plan that must be maintained and submitted to TCEQ to record the use of water under the permit and ensure conditions of the permit are met. The permit contains special conditions concerning the update of the water management plan. So first, the water management plan must be maintained and is incorporated into the system operation permit. So changes in the water management plan essentially mean changes in the permit. And a major amendment of the water management plan is subject to contested case hearing. So in other words, the amendment of the water management plan is subject to notices with the potential for protestance of the process. And then finally, the water management plan must be updated every 10 years with the first submittal due to the TCEQ by November 30th of 2026, which is about 3 years from now, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. A little bit about the tasks that are contemplated in this update. First, a review of the past permit documents. I mentioned the 2 contested case hearings. There was a lot of information that was generated in those processes, and so we'll review that and identify key constraints and potential opportunities that may need to be addressed in the update process. The bulk of the hydrological and engineering services will be focused in task 2 and 3, where I mentioned water availability models. That's essentially hydrologic models that model water rights throughout the whole basin and can calculate the authorization that it is the permit itself. We have to update demand scenarios, and that'll be developed in task 2 and 3, and that will all be compiled in the submittal to TCEQ. Public outreach will be a key component, as well as necessary updates to the water accounting plan that I mentioned before. And finally, the consultant will assist in any potential contested case hearings associated with the amendment process. So a request for proposals through a statement of qualifications was posted. We had 2 hydrologic engineering firms that submitted responses. BRA's Vendor Evaluation Committee heard presentations from both Freeze and Nichols and Carollo engineers who responded to the RFP or the RFQ. And proposals were evaluated on the criteria that is listed here. I think both firms were also notified of the rankings, and a debrief was not requested. These 2 firms are the best in the business, and I will state that. One of the reasons I believe we only had 2 respondents is the fact that this is a complicated project, and it requires a lot of hydrologic modeling that not every firm can do. And additionally, Freese & Nichols did perform the hydrologic modeling and engineering in the initial permitting process, so that the 15 years of direct experience with the initial process was significant. Talk a little bit about project budget. We are currently continuing to negotiate the contract and scope of work and fee estimate with Freese & Nichols. In the event we aren't successful, we would move to Carollo to negotiate the scope and fee negotiations. Costs required to maintain the system operation permit, which includes the maintenance of the water management plan, are integrated into the annual BRA operating budgets for the federal reservoirs and are projected through the long-term financial forecasts. The costs associated with updating and amending the water management plan and the permit have been estimated to be approximately $5 million over the 10-year update cycle. We're hopeful that the effort that we presented here and the fees will be under that amount. In an effort to expedite the progress of this update process, we're seeking authorization to complete negotiations and execute a contract for the hydrological and engineering services to complete the update of the water management plan and any amendments for the permit for an amount not to exceed the value set forth in BRA's annual operating plans. And we do have a resolution, but I can take any questions.
So,
Director Bourne.
oh, can I add one thing, Director Bourne? So really what we're doing here is the TCEQ has granted us this very, very complicated permit. And because of its complications and because of its challenges in court, they put forth this methodology to where the BRA is going to come back every 10 years and you're going to prove to us that that water's there and that it's available and it can be used and that it has whatever harms or no harms that are associated with it. There's almost no chance that this won't be challenged in a SOA hearing. So what we're doing is collecting the data, building the water management plan, and building our case for when we end up in SOA defending the long-term firmness of this water.
And because we went through a lot of that with Lake Allen Henry and Upper Basin, and it's phenomenal how you're addressing this. Did I misunderstand you? Did it take 13 years to get approval from TCEQ 2003 to 2016?
Yes.
So, but it did, but what happened, and you guys throw rocks at me if I'm wrong, we got a long way down the road and then the 2011 drought happened. Okay. And those that were challenging it said, okay, how can you TCEQ grant this permit when we're looking at maybe the driest, hottest time we've ever had? So we kind of had to start over and go back and remodel it because of what Mother Nature did.
Okay, so
blame her.
I guess you're going to use both firms more than likely or probably, or?
No, this would be one firm doing all of the work.
For what length of period?
I'll let you answer those questions.
Well, we're 3 years out from the submittal. So once we submit the updated water management plan, the notices will go out and there's potential for contested case hearings. So, I don't know how long that would take after the 3 years, but, it could be another couple of years.
So is it going to be an indefinite as needed type of proposal? Probably.
I think what we're asking for is to hire Freese & Nichols for this amount of money to get us through this process.
Gotcha.
And once the process is over and TCEQ stamps the water management strategy, the water management plan, then that would define when we start over for the next 10-year
Will
period.
this include runoff water and reusable water that's treated from cities and municipalities when they start moving more in that direction of treating their own effluent?
So, wastewater is something that we're looking at as part of the task. The system operation permit details return flows that are discharged from wastewater treatment plants that we have authorization for. So we will be looking at those discharge permits and evaluating the potential for, reuse under the permit.
Director Henderson has a question.
So I can only imagine that something like this is just volumes and volumes of pages and exhibits and things like that. So once you've given a firm the go-ahead to start working on the permit, how long do we expect it to get something that the BRA staff can review? What's the time frame to put the permit together?
So the water management plan update, I guess your question is the documentation that we have to submit. I will say the water management plan consists of a technical report that is 1,000+ pages. The water management plan itself is 50, 60 pages. So there's a lot of information that will have to be compiled. A lot of that information may not change, but there'll have to be tweaks. We're going to be, BRA staff is going to be involved in every step of the way as we move through the update process. So it's going to be, real time, essentially. We're going to see information and we'll be coordinating with the consultant. But, we have to make the timeline of, November of 2026 to submit what we need to TCEQ. And we've already started coordinating with TCEQ on, what this looks like. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Sure. Not really. So let me maybe ask it a different way. So I think there is value in historical knowledge of these permits. I can only imagine that being the first one in Texas had to be just a hill to climb. So the historical knowledge of what's in it is it's something that is very valuable. But then can that just be updated? Is it as simple as, we can reuse a lot of that information again and maybe save ourselves a little bit of money and time, but then incorporate some new technology and some new software that's come out to help in the modeling process? Is that going to help the time frame at all? I feel like 3 years to put one of these together it's aggressive, but it's got to be done. So I just want to make sure it can be done.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Director Lattimore has a question.
Either fortunately or unfortunately, I was involved in part of the opposition to this whole process. And there were some real basic questions about the original modeling and the technology that was involved. And I guess when you mentioned Carollo and Friesen Nichols, and I had a chance to think about that while you were talking about it, the question I've got for you, Aaron, is, are you satisfied in your own mind and in your evaluation that Friesen Nichols has access to the very best technology? And I'm talking about the science involved in the modeling. Are they going to be able to go back to the basis if they can't support the technology of that model and point to it and say this is the best in the business, then they're going to lose in a contested case? Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it does.
Are you comfortable?
I am comfortable with Friesen Nichols and their capabilities. There's going to be some updates to the model, but the model is what is required for TCEQ. But they are one of the best in the business and have a lot of experience directly related to this process. So I'm comfortable with them.
One of the best doesn't make me feel comfortable. Are they the best? Is my question. If they're not the best, then we need to keep looking.
No, they're the best.
Director Lattimore, thank you for asking that question. And Aaron, thank you for your confidence. Aaron went through the timeline. This is very complicated, and the BRA worked very, very hard to get the permit. And so your confidence in knowing who to go with to get us through the next 3 years, to meet that timeline, to continue with this permit is extremely important for the BRA and for all of Texans up and down the reservoir. So this is a big deal. This is a big decision. And so I ask everybody to ask your questions because this is critical for our continuing with this permit. And I thought I saw somebody over here with a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to tag on to that, and then David, to your previous comment. So in the last agenda item, so, David, you were mentioning that looking down the road in 10 years or whatever, 2 years, whatever it's going to be, that we won't have, the way the trend is that we won't have interruptible water. I think through this SysOps permit, we need to be thinking as a board, to Cynthia's point, on it's not just what's flowing out. It's not just Mother Nature. And Aaron, you can throw rocks at me like you throw rocks to David if I'm misspeaking. I think that we should be also, as a board, looking at the change in inflows. And and I don't mean just Mother Nature. I think that as, like you said, the population grows, the topography changes, there's more concrete. What does that look like as what we normally at those percentages? What does our history tell us, and how is that trend going to follow that? So I think we have, as a board, we have a responsibility of looking at both sides of this. And I agree with Cynthia. This is, it's very important for the stability of our water system.
Yes, Director Embro.
You mentioned this is one of the hardest things to do, right? So how do you measure success? How do you, what are the barometers to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, or that we're capturing what it is that we're seeking?
Yeah. So success, I mean, we mentioned, 106,000 acre feet of farm water that's generated by the permit. And we've contracted to this point 93,000 acre feet, and that generates, $8.6 million a year. And our customers that have entered into those contracts, some of those are out to 30 years, and they rely upon those contracts, out into the future. So we have to be able to preserve the permit itself. And I am 100% confident that Freeze is going to do this and has the capabilities to do this. But the success is we have to keep what we have now. And, because of the future of Texans and water supply in the Brazos and how much entities have relied upon this authorization so far.
In going into more detail, I think success is preparing yourself for the SOA hearings and making sure that the science that you create justifies this water moving forward.
Warren, and then we'll go to Director Savage.
Director Jim, Freeze and Nichols love it because you use them a lot in our water modeling. And TCQ is very challenging, not just with your natural water flows, but when you start adding what you mentioned is effluent and runoff from rain or whatever, where it comes from, the right of ownership of that becomes very, very challenging. And so experience and knowing how to deal with the state agency, plus your modeling you've got from the historical and what you're doing, that's your best qualifications in Texas to deal with this, what you got to deal with. And I'm pretty impressed with what you're doing. I think it's very long-term, it's very, very analytical and very, very crucial to the survival of what you got to make happen.
Director Savage.
Well, I have a lot of confidence in the staff and in your technical evaluation of the consultant, so I have no problem with that. But one thing that we haven't talked about, and this is kind of the threading the needle thing, Tiffany is also working on some of these environmental things, and we've got like Fawn's Foot mussels, and we've got Brazos water snake. Timing-wise, could we be in the envelope where we're forced to operate differently because of these environmental issues before we get the permit? Or are those sufficiently on the horizon and we think we're confident with our plans that nothing could happen before the 3-year or however it would take? You know, that's for the submittal, and then I don't know how long it takes.
So I will, as it relates to the CCAA and that process, I'll let Tiffany.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from her.
One of the primary reasons for entering into the CCA was to avoid and limit and reduce their abilities to come back and demand more from us. So theoretically, we should be good now in the realm of federal lawsuits where anyone can sue with very little evidence. I can't say that's 100% certain, but that was the main impetus for the CCA, was to do everything we could in advance to protect what we already have. So
we're doing everything we can do. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
possible that we can do right now.
Great job by the whole staff.
Thank you, Tiffany. Last question here.
Yeah, I do have one more question. So I went back to the different tasks you have, and I do agree that these two firms that you're looking at are great firms, and they are top ranked in the industry. Is there a way to enter a contract with both of them and split up the tasks between the two and maybe move things along faster?
No,
Is that
let me jump in there.
Absolutely.
Here's the problem. The problem is that there's only a handful of these folks in Texas that understand Texas law and represent Texas clients. And you begin getting into conflicts of interest and who represents who and who's going to preserve their right to challenge the BRA and so on. So if theoretically, I guess if we go out and lock down all of the firms that do modeling, then there would be nobody that could line up to challenge us. But other firms are either going to not want to challenge Freeze and Nichols or the BRA because of conflicts of interest, and then because of workload in this, and the way this has to go, we think Freeze and Nichols can do it fast enough, and we don't really need to be any faster. It doesn't benefit us to get it done a year earlier and pay more money to two different firms, but then the conflict of interest thing becomes a big deal also. Okay. And also in our contract with Freeze and Nichols, they're having to guarantee to us when they get to the finish line that they have no conflicts of interest and they can represent us in SOA hearings.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to add one thing quickly. I have absolutely no lack of confidence in the staff or in Aaron, or as far as that's concerned, of Freeze and Nichols. My comments, I just wanted to hear him say that he has total confidence in his selection. Having said that, I'll hush.
Thank you. All right. Aaron, thank you. Tiffany, thank you. Please read the resolution.
Whereas on November 30th, 2016, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality issued Water Use Permit 5851, the System Operation Permit, to the Brazos River Authority. Whereas Special Condition 5D1 of Water Use Permit 5851 directs the Brazos River Authority to maintain a water management plan that is attached to and incorporated into the permit. Whereas Special Condition 5D2 of Water Use Permit 5851 mandates that any major amendment of the water management plan shall be pursuant to contested case hearing procedures. Whereas Special Condition 5D3 of Water Use Permit 5851 mandates the Brazos River Authority submit to the Executive Director of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality an application for reconsideration or amendment of the water management plan at a minimum of every 10 years. Whereas the Brazos River Authority utilizes the appropriations authorized within Water Use Permit 5851 to make available 106,031 acre-feet for long-term firm water contracts. Whereas the process by which the water management plan and Water Use Permit 5851 are amended will require significant hydrological modeling and engineering services. Whereas the Brazos River Authority received proposals from two technical consultants, Freese and Nichols and Carollo Engineers Incorporated, to complete the necessary hydrological modeling and engineering services. Whereas the Brazos River Authority's Vendor Evaluation Committee evaluated the proposals and determined Freese and Nichols was ranked first and Carollo Engineers Incorporated was ranked second for the purposes of contract and scope of work negotiations. Whereas the Brazos River Authority is currently in the process of negotiating for such hydrological modeling and engineering services, and whereas the Brazos River Authority staff, in an effort to expedite progress on the project, is seeking authorization for the General Manager CEO to execute a contract for the services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to negotiate and execute a contracts for the hydrological and engineering services required in connection with updating Water Use Permit 5851 and the Water Management Plan as determined necessary by the General Manager CEO for an amount not to exceed the value set forth for this project in the Brazos River Authority's annual operating plans.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. There's a motion made by Director Henderson, a second by Director Savage. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Warren,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Conley,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action on Brazos G Regional Water Plan contract amendments by Aaron Abel, Water Resource Manager. Thank you. Aaron.
I got the rolling finger, so this will go quick. This item requests authorization to amend our existing regional water planning contract with the Texas Water Development Board and the professional services agreement with Carollo Engineering to complete tasks identified in the regional water planning contract and continue to move forward with the 6th cycle of regional water planning. We're also requesting a budget amendment to the FY 2024 budget to accept those funds and support the Brazos G regional water planning process. As the political subdivision and administrative agent for the Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group, we maintain an existing contract with the board that allows the receipt for grant funds from the Texas Water Development Board and to utilize the development for the development of the 2026 Brazos G Regional Water Plan. So the initial funding to start the 6th cycle was released in summer of 2021 through the 88th Texas Legislature. The Texas Water Development Board has now allocated additional funding to fund the budget and additional work for the development of the 2026 Brazos G Regional Water Plan. The additional funding amount brings the total funding to about $2.19 million. To receive this additional funding from the board, an amendment to the regional water planning contract between BRA and the Texas Water Development Board is required. Additionally, an amendment to the professional services agreement between BRA and Carollo Engineering that supports the Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group is also required. These funds will be utilized to help complete the 6th cycle of regional water planning with the 2026 Brazos G Regional Water Plan due to the Texas Water Development Board in October of 2025. Since these are grant funds, this will have a zero net effect on the Brazos River Authority's FY 2024 budgeted ending uncommitted reserve balance and will have no effect on the FY 2024 adopted system rate. I'm happy to answer any questions on this one.
Any questions for Aaron? Seeing no questions, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to execute appropriate amendments to the regional water planning contract with the Texas Water Development Board in order to support Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group activities. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to execute appropriate amendments to the concurrent professional services agreement to include additional scope of work tasks and to increase the total not to exceed amount to $2,123,000 $611 with Carollo Engineering on behalf of the Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group to support activities for the 6th cycle of regional water planning. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes and approves amendments to the fiscal year 2024 water supply operating budget to support the Brazos G Regional Water Planning Group activities as follows. Increase the fiscal year 2024 water supply grant revenue budget by $313,000 from its current level of $353,470 to $666,470, and increase the corresponding federal reservoirs professional services expense budget by $313,000 from $1.9 million to $2,213,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. There's a motion made by Director Corona, second by Director Bourne. Please pull the board.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Bourne,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
I abstain because of my position on Region G.
All right, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and when we come back, we'll enter into executive session. Just exchange, lease, or value. .072 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, codified as Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Specifically involved in the presentation of the first session agenda item, please excuse yourself from the boardroom at this time. With each executive session agenda item, time will be allowed to clear the boardroom and call the next presenters. We ask that the public please wait in the break room in order to keep the hallways clear until the executive session is finished. The Board of Directors reconvenes into open session at 11:54 a.m. There a resolution to consider? I believe there is. Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorize the General Manager CEO to purchase 2 tracts of land and associated improvements totaling approximately 28.4 acres adjacent to the East Williamson County Water Treatment Plant for a total price of $1,785,000. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes and approves an amendment to the fiscal year 2024 Trinity Groundwater Well Land Acquisition Project budget as follows. Increase the Trinity Groundwater Well Land Acquisition Project budget by $1,800,000, which includes the property purchase price and any ancillary costs necessary to complete this transaction from its current level of $0 to $1,800,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. I'll make a motion to adopt, and Tracy LaChance is second. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber, Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Warren,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 10, discussion and possible action on 2024 schedule of board meetings by David Collingsworth, General Manager, CEO.
So our policy requires that the Board of Directors establish and set its dates for the meetings for the next calendar year. You can go to the next slide. Consistent with how we've done meetings toward the last Monday of the month, here's the proposed calendar for next year, taking into account a holiday in May and then a holiday again in November. So they won't be the last Mondays of the month, but the rest of those dates are the last Mondays of the month. Any questions, concerns, comments?
Thank you. Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby adopts the following schedule for meetings of the Board of Directors for calendar year 2024: January 29th, March 25th, May 20th, July 29th, September 30th, and November 18th.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Wilson, a second by Director Crum. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Warren,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez, Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 11, discussion and possible action on election of officers by presiding officer Cynthia Flores. That is me. This is an action item taken up by the board every 2 years, whereas the board chooses an assistant presiding officer and a secretary. We'll handle this agenda items as follows. As the chair, I will abstain from the voting unless my vote is needed to break a tie. I will first open the floor for nominations for Assistant Presiding Officer. Those receiving a nomination and a second will be added to the list of candidates. Once there's no additional nominations, I will close the nominations for Assistant Presiding Officer. At that time, we'll hold a vote. If we have only one candidate, we'll ask the staff to poll the board. You will simply say yes or no on that candidate. If we have more than one candidate, we'll ask the staff to poll the board, and you will state the name of the candidate for which you wish to vote for. The candidate receiving the majority will be declared the winner. If there's more than two candidates and none receive majority, the two candidates with the highest vote totals will move to a runoff. After the vote for Assistant Presiding Officer is complete, we'll repeat the same process with the Secretary. Once the process is completed, the board will be presented with the resolution wherein we will officially name the new Assistant Presiding Officer and Secretary. I will now open the floor for nominations for Assistant Presiding Officer. Director Bourne has nominated Rick Huber. And Director Lattimore has second. Any other nominations for Assistant Presiding Officer? Seeing none, please poll the board. You'll note either yes or no for Director Huber.
Okay. Director Huber,
Abstain.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Abraham, Director Warner,
Yes.
Director Fernandez, Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Emro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You too, Wes.
All right. Seems that everybody was excited to vote. We'll move on to the secretary position. We'll take nominations for the secretary. Yes.
The bylaws provide for a term limit of only 2 terms for an officer. And being I have reached that limit, I would like to nominate Wesley Lloyd to replace me as Secretary Treasurer. Since he and this gentleman get along so well together.
I wish I could vote.
I can work with anybody.
Is there a second for Wes Lloyd for secretary? All right. Director Lattimore is the second. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Seeing none, please pull the board for Wes Lloyd as secretary.
Director Huber,
Yes, ma'am.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Warner,
Yes.
Director Fernandez, Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd, Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I would like to say, Ford, thank you so much for serving. So he has 4 years. Wes, congratulations. Congratulations, Director Huber. I think we have to read the resolution. By memory.
Be resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority pursuant to the authority granted by Article 4 of the Brazos River Authority bylaws that Rick Huber is hereby elected to serve as Assistant Presiding Officer and Wesley Lloyd is hereby elected to serve as Secretary. The aforementioned officers shall serve for 2 years or until a successor is selected.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. There was a motion made by Director Smith, a second by Director Crone. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Bourne,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Wonderful. At this time, I will accept a motion to adjourn. Director Henderson. Oh, yes.
Together the Board of Directors page that we saw
with the terms and everything and color coded. I want to compliment whomever did that. It looks great. It just looks great. David,
We come off the same.
David, like always, your team does an amazing job. This has been a wonderful 2023 year. I wish everybody a blessed Thanksgiving, wwonderful holidays, rest up. Next year's a big year. Y'all have safe travels.
And the same to you, Cynthia.
Good job. 2020.